Peppa and the sparkly bunny friend. Little Peppa was playing with her stuffed bunny. Big Peppa came over and asked curiously, "Where did you get this bunny?" Little Peppa smiled and pointed into the distance. The two sisters ran off and discovered a magical scene, a table and chairs made of mooncakes and a big gate guarded by white rabbits. Little Peppa sat on a mooncake chair and pointed to the gate. Big Peppa bravely went inside and soon came back, holding two more lovely stuffed bunnies. The sisters were overjoyed, hugging all their bunnies as they sat together at the mooncake tea table under the gentle moonlight.
Ah.
2 hours later.
The leaf on her head. Peppa walks slowly in the garden. A leaf falls down from above. The leaf gently lands on Peppa's head. Peppa doesn't notice and keeps walking. Peppa stops and looks around. The leaf on the head gently wiggles in the breeze. George runs over and looks at Peppa's head. George points and giggles. Peppa reaches up to her head, but can't quite reach it. The leaf falls into Peppa's hand. A gentle breeze blows. The leaf blows away from Peppa's hand. Peppa and George watch it fly away and smile. The leaf swirls gently and falls to the ground. Peppa picks up the leaf and places it on George's head. George stays still for a moment, then smiles. Peppa laughs happily. Peppa and the small toy car. Peppa walks into the living room slowly. Peppa stops when she sees a small toy car on the floor.
Whoa!
Peppa sits down and gently touches the car. The car rolls slowly. Peppa opens her eyes wide and smiles. Peppa places her hand behind the car. Peppa gently pushes the car forward. across the floor. Peppa runs after the car. The car stops near George. George looks at the car curiously. George touches the car. George pushes the car back toward Peppa. Peppa catches the car with both hands. Peppa and George laugh happily. Today, Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig come home after a fun day out. Before going inside, Mommy Pig places a star-shaped hat, just like a wizard's hat, on a chair. George has just woken up and is still feeling sleepy. He slowly walks toward the door. Peppa notices the strange hat and picks it up. Suddenly, the hat floats up and gently lands on Peppa's head. Peppa laughs happily and runs outside. Seeing this, George quickly runs after her. Peppa Pig and the Silly Tower Contest. Today, Peppa and her friends are joining a tower building contest with wooden blocks. Everyone gets a small pile of blocks and excitedly starts building. Peppa carefully stacks one block on top of another, giggling. George tries to build his tower tall, but it keeps wobbling. Candy Cat makes a tower shaped like a curly cat's tail. Some friends build straight and tall towers, while others stack them in circles like a big birthday cake. Each tower looks silly and unique. Suddenly, a gentle breeze blows. George's tower wobbles and crashes down. The blocks scatter everywhere, making everyone burst into laughter. Even though no one has the tallest tower, everyone has their own masterpiece. The best prize of all is the laughter and joy they share today. Christmas is here! Christmas is here! Peppa wakes up to see the whole world covered in sparkling white snow. Peppa and George rush to the living room. The Christmas tree is glowing brighter than ever. Peppa twirls with joy, while George admires the shiny ornaments. Christmas feels magical! The family gets everything ready. Stockings are hung neatly, and a golden star is placed on the very top. Peppa gasps as a bright light streaks across the sky. Christmas is full of surprises and magic. A colorful rainy day. It is raining outside. Peppa and George cannot play in the garden. Peppa goes into the house. Daddy Pig is watching TV. Oh, Daddy Pig has an idea. He brings out a box of crayons. wants to draw, and George chooses yellow for Peppa. And Peppa draws her favorite yellow dinosaur. Peppa Pig and the shape-shifting cloud. Peppa and George sit on the grass in the garden. High above, white clouds drift slowly across the blue sky. George points up at the sky, excited. Peppa squints as she watches a big cloud drifting by. Daddy Pig sits nearby, holding a cup of water, and looks up at the two children. Mommy Pig sits beside them, smiling gently. The cloud slowly turns into the shape of a chubby little pig. Peppa jumps up excitedly and points at the sky. A moment later, the cloud stretches out and turns into the shape of a dinosaur. George's eyes light up, and he jumps up happily. The cloud slowly breaks apart into many small pieces and drifts away. Peppa and George laugh happily.
Aha!
Peppa and George are inside the house. Peppa holds a sheet of blue paper. Carefully, she folds the paper into the shape of an airplane. Beep, beep, beep. Peppa makes the sound of a plane taking off. Peppa gives the paper plane to George. George smiles widely. He holds the plane and runs around the room. Whoosh, whoosh. George makes the sound of the plane flying in the air. Peppa claps her hands to cheer on her little brother. George runs near the window. He throws the plane. The plane flies out the window, loops around once, and lands on the green grass in the garden. Peppa and George watch in surprise. Peppa and George run outside into the garden together. They look everywhere for the paper plane. Hooray! Hooray! George shouts when he finds the plane on the lawn. They both pick it up and run back inside the house, laughing happily. Peppa and George lay on the grass, watching fluffy white clouds drift across the sky. Peppa and George are playing with a balloon in the park. A strong gust of wind blows the balloon up into the sky. Peppa looks up at the balloon, startled. George points at the sky, following the balloon with his eyes. Peppa and Daddy Pig start running after the balloon, trying to keep up as it flies higher. Peppa and Daddy Pig run across the grassy field, their legs moving quickly. George runs behind, watching the balloon and smiling. Peppa and Daddy Pig spot the balloon caught in a tree branch. Peppa points at the tree, excited to see the balloon. Daddy Pig uses a long stick to try and reach the balloon from the tree. Peppa hops around happily. Peppa and Daddy Pig are happy to have rescued the balloon. Peppa holds the balloon in her hands, smiling. George jumps up joyfully. The pig family sits down together and continues to play in the park. The magical ladder. Huh? Cool. But this was no ordinary ladder. It began to shake and slowly lift off the ground. Huh? Peppa climbed up quickly while George held on tight. Together, they rose higher and higher. The ladder floated past the apple tree, gently knocking apples down into the grass. Finally, the ladder landed back on the ground. Peppa and George tumbled off, laughing all the way. Teddy Bear Rescue. George tossed Teddy up to play, but oh no, Teddy didn't come back down. Instead, he got stuck high up on a tree branch. Peppa jumped as high as she could. George stretched his arms as far as he could, but Teddy stayed firmly on the branch. Just as the two were about to give up, a sudden gust of wind blew in. Teddy fell from the branch and landed neatly in George's arms. George hugged Teddy as if reuniting with a long-lost friend, while Peppa giggled under the tree. And so, the Teddy rescue mission ended, not thanks to any plan, but thanks to the wind itself.